This is the Judge's Education presentation. This presentation and all the contents are under copyright with the Danish-Swedish Farmdog Club of America. No changes or alterations can be made without the permission of the DSFCA Board. Copyright January 2026. Welcome to the Judge's Education video presentation from the Danish-Swedish Farmdog Club of America, updated in January 2026. This video is intended to provide accurate and consistent information to judges evaluating the Danish-Swedish Farmdog. When considering the information to be presented, please remember that the standard is the ultimate authority. This video will follow this outline and will cover the history of the breed and its recognition by kennel clubs, the work this breed performs and the temperament of the dogs, an in-depth analysis of the breed standard, special considerations when judging the breed, a look at related and similar breeds and discussion of breed type, the general health of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog, and images of typical Danish-Swedish Farmdogs. Breed status. The Danish-Swedish Farmdog has been fully approved in the FCI since May of 2019. It is shown in FCI Group 2, which includes the Pinscher and Schnauzer types. The breed was approved for AKC Miscellaneous Group June 30th, 2021, and the breed became fully approved in the AKC Working Group January 1st, 2025. Now we will discuss the history of the breed. No one knows the origin of the breed with certainty, but the breed is very old. Dog skeletons found in Viking burial sites are similar to farm dog types. This map shows the Scandinavian countries. The blue circle is around Denmark and Lower Sweden, where the Danish-Swedish farm dog type of dogs were developed. It is evident that the breed has existed and been an important part of family and farming life throughout centuries in these regions. Old paintings and some of the earliest photography include these small dogs, which, without any doubt, are the forefathers of the current population. King Gustav of Sweden can be seen here in the center of the photograph after a hunt with the Danish-Swedish Farmdog in the lower right-hand corner. This photo was taken in 1902. Up until the 1960s, this little farm dog could be found all over the countryside in Denmark and southern Sweden. During industrialization, there were fewer and fewer small farms in these countries. At the same time, the population of farm dogs decreased. Fortunately, a few country folks continued the breeding of the dogs. In Sweden, multiple generations of the breed had been recorded in an unofficial registry. The handwritten records date back to the early 1960s, and the dogs had been recorded and described as Scania Terriers. The Danish and Swedish kennel clubs began to talk about the breed, and it became apparent that the breed was the same in both countries and that it was indeed not a terrier. The registration of the farm dogs and a controlled breeding program was initiated in the 1970s. During the 1980s, it became clear to the Danish Kennel Club Committee for National and Forgotten Breeds that it was important to preserve the breed. The Danish-Swedish Farmdog has been called the Scania Terrier, the Danish Pinscher, and Rat Dog. Ultimately, the name Dansk-Svensk Guardshund, or Danish-Swedish Farmdog, was agreed upon through the work of two judges, Ole Stanskjer of Denmark and Lars Adeheimer of Sweden. In 1986, the Swedish Kennel Club held its first certification of the new breed, and around 100 dogs were approved and recorded in the Swedish Kennel Club registry. The Swedish registry was open until 2005 to allow a large gene pool of dogs as the founders of the breed. In 1987, the first 130 Danish-Swedish Farmdogs were registered in the Danish Kennel Club's X registry, and in 1989, the breed was shown officially for the first time at the Denmark World Dog Show in Bella Center. The Danish registry remains open for new certifications of dogs that are deemed the correct type, allowing continued protection against inbreeding depression. Through close cooperation between the Danish Kennel Club and the Swedish Kennel Club, the breed was accepted by FCI as provisional in 2008 and fully accepted in 2019. This slide shows the timeline of the history of the breed in the United States. In 1998, the first Danish-Swedish Farmdog was imported to the United States. In 2005, the Danish-Swedish Farmdog Club was formed, and in 2011, the breed was accepted into the AKC FSS program. In 2021, it moved into the AKC Miscellaneous Group, and January 1st, 2025, it moved into the AKC Working Group. As the smallest dog in the working group, the Danish-Swedish Farmdog continues to grow in popularity as an easy-to-own, compact, and fun working dog. We will now focus on the breed standard of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog. The official AKC breed standard was developed in cooperation between the breed clubs in Denmark, Sweden, and the United States. Danish-Swedish Farmdogs were used as a farm and companion dog. They kept away mice, rats, and other vermin from the stables and houses. This is an important ability which continues to be well preserved in today's dogs. The Danish-Swedish Farmdog is a cold-blooded murderer when it comes to rodents. The Farmdog also barked loudly when a stranger approached the farm. The purpose is to announce the stranger's presence, not to chase or be aggressive towards them. It is expected that they will quit barking once the owner has welcomed the visitor. Because the Farmdog is full of spunk and always happy, it also serves well as a playmate for children. The same abilities also took them to the circus. They're friendly, outgoing, open-minded, and attentive. Consequently, a willing temperament is a breed characteristic. All of these qualities, therefore, are highly desirable. Some Farmdogs were also used in hunting and to help bring cows in from the field. However, these abilities, hunting and herding, were not originally among the main purpose of the breed, so are therefore not necessarily required. It is essential to highlight that the Farmdog must never show aggression when it barks as strangers approach. A reserved, shy Farmdog has a temperament that breeders consider strongly undesirable. A Danish-Swedish Farmdog must be friendly. The Farmdog was used to catch mice and rats, and as a doorbell and as a family pet. It is essential to note that the Farmdog is a general-purpose pincher type of dog rather than a terrier type. Breed standard, general appearance, a small, compact, lively, smooth-coated and slightly rectangular dog. Known to mature late, the Danish-Swedish Farmdog is not to appear refined or elegant. Clear differentiation between the genders is important. In these pictures, we see dogs that are of excellent type with distinction between the genders. Throughout this section on the breed standard, the standard will appear in green boxes, descriptions of photos in blue boxes, faults in orange boxes, and comments on the standard by experts in purple boxes. Breed standard, size, height at the withers. Male dogs should be 13.5 to 14.5 inches, plus or minus 1 inch, while females should be 12.5 to 14 inches, plus or minus a half an inch. Even though there is significant tolerance in height, one must remember that the overall impression should be of a small, compact dog. There is no size disqualification. Size, proportion, and substance. Farmdogs develop slowly. This should be considered when judging. The breed is not fully developed until the age of 3 or 4 years, in some cases even longer for males. An elegant appearance is a fault. These images emphasize the slow to mature aspect of the breed. The dog on the left is 13 months old, and the dog on the right is the same dog at 4 years old. Proportion. The farm dog should be slightly longer than tall. It must not give the impression of either long or short legs. The body should be slightly rectangular, a proportion of 9 to 10. The proportions between the depth of chest and height of the withers should be 1 to 2. Proportions. The Danish-Swedish Farmdog should be just slightly longer than tall. The height at the shoulders should be compared to the distance from the point of the shoulder to the ischium. In this image, the boxes are square, and the matrix shows 10 squares in body length compared to 9 in body height for this correct dog. The proportions between the depth of chest and height at the withers should be 1 to 2, or in other words 50-50 from the withers to chest bottom and from chest bottom to the ground. The green bar in this picture should be half the length of the blue bar. The head of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog should be triangular in shape and a bit small in proportion to the body. The relatively small wedge should form an equilateral triangle. A rather broad skull creates the base, and the head is gradually narrowing towards the muzzle, which is slightly shorter than the skull. The skull should be rather broad and slightly rounded. The stop is well defined. The cheeks pronounced without exaggeration. The triangular shape is only correct when the cheeks are not too pronounced. On the other hand, they should be well filled under the eyes. It is important that the stop is well defined without being too deep. It is also important to observe that the stop is an actual stop. The arch of the eyebrows can make a poor stop appear better. The skull is only slightly rounded. A round and or coarse skull and snub nose give a completely atypical impression. It is also atypical to have a narrow skull or flat cheeks. This gives a terrier-like expression. The head on the left has correct proportions, a well-filled muzzle, and a correct stop. On the right, the profile of the head has good proportions. However, the head is a little bit snipey, and a better stop could be desired, and the muzzle could be more well-filled. This is also an example that a well-defined arch of the eyebrows can make a poor stop appear better. Eyes. The eyes of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog should be medium-sized, slightly rounded, neither protruding nor sunken. The dog should have an attentive and kind expression. The DSF should have dark eyes. Slightly lighter eye color is permissible in dogs with brown nose leather, as is found on chocolate brown, and on some yellow dogs. 1 or 2 blue eyes occur occasionally. The breed standard calls for dark eyes. Blue eyes are light and undesirable. Ears. Ears are medium-sized, rose or button. In both cases, the fold should be just above the skull. For button ears, the tip should lie close to the cheeks. Heavy, long, hound-like ears are unwanted. It takes away the impression of a small head. The breed can either have rose ears or button ears, and it is not unusual to see one with one of each. Prick ears are a fault in the breed. The farm dog uses its ears quite a lot, and its mood is often reflected in how it carries the ears. It is not unusual to see a dog which at one moment has rose ears and in the next moment button ears. The ears must neither be too high nor too low set. Prick ears are a serious fault because they change the expression of a DSF, and this should be reflected in the judgment. On the left is a dog with correct rose ears, and on the right is a dog with correct button ears. Notice that the ears are not too big and not too heavy and are folded above the skull. On the left is a male farm dog that has ears that are too large and eyes that are too deep set. On the right is a dog that has ears held as rose ears, but they are both set high and folded too high, which gives a much too flighty expression. Aside from the ears, the eyes on this dog also appear a bit too protruding, which further disturbs the expression. Muzzle, well developed and gradually narrowing towards the nose, but must not give a snipey impression. Muzzle slightly shorter than the skull, nose bridge straight. This slide shows photographs of excellent male head types, including both rose ears and button ears. This slide shows excellent examples of female heads in the Danish-Swedish Farmdog, showing both ear types as well. Jaws. Jaws strong. Bite. Scissors bite with even and well-developed incisors. A level bite is tolerated. Nose, color in accordance with the color of patches on the body. Since the farm dog is a rat dog, both jaws and teeth must be well formed. Weak and narrow muzzles with narrow jaws and small teeth are undesirable. Level bite is accepted. A good scissors bite with a bit of wood stuck in the teeth. This slide also illustrates the bite examination of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog. The neck is medium length, strong, and slightly arched with no throatiness. Since the head is rather small, the neck can appear more powerful than it is. In males particularly, the desired slightly arched neckline gives the neck a powerful impression. Necks that are too long are faulted. On the left is a good strong neck of correct medium length. In contrast, the neck on the right is too long and elegant for a male farm dog. Top line. Strong back, slightly arched short loin, slightly rounded croup. If the tail is set too high, the croup is too flat, and this gives the impression of terrier type. Loin, short, broad, and slightly arched. Croup, slightly rounded, must not be flat. The slightly rounded croup must never be confused with a steep or sloping croup. An overly sloping croup does not facilitate the breed's free movement. A steep croup is a fault. On the left is a correct loin and croup, and on the right is a flat loin and croup combined with a high tail set, which is undesirable and atypical. Chest, long, deep, and roomy with very well-sprung ribs. Forechest well defined. The front is slightly broader than the rib cage. The chest should reach to the elbow. Ribs well sprung, the rib cage must be relatively wide compared to the size of the dog. Underline tuck up. Belly only slightly tucked up, the long rib cage and short loin make for an only slightly tucked up belly. Lack of depth of chest and narrow in front are faults, as is flat or short rib cage. The body is substantial because of the deep and roomy rib cage, which also must have a good spring of ribs. The dog on the left has a long rib cage, well-defined forechest, and correct underline. The dog on the right has a short rib cage, a too tucked up underline, and no spring of ribs. And this is incorrect. From the front, the Danish-Swedish Farmdog should have good width with a well-defined forechest like the dog on the left, and not be narrow like the dog on the right, which also lacks depth of chest. Tail. Not too high of a tail set. The tail can be long or naturally bobbed. It is never docked. The tail should be carried straight with a slight curve or like a sickle. The slightly rounded croup causes the tail to not be set too high. Fault is a curled tail or a tail carried flat on the back. If the tail is set too high, the croup is too flat, and this gives the impression of the terrier type. Puppies can be born with a full tail, a natural bob tail, or no tail at all. Any natural undocked length of tail is acceptable. A tail that is curled, rolled like a donut, or a tail carried flat on the back is considered a fault. The dog on the left has a correctly carried tail, but it is set too high on the back. The dog on the right has both a correct tail carriage and a correct set with a slightly rounded croup. This slide shows the two tail faults. The dog on the left has a tail that is carried flat on the back, and the dog on the right has a tail that is curled too much. Shifting to the front of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog, the front legs should be straight and parallel. Due to the wide and deep chest, the front legs are placed rather wide. Pasterns are strong and springy, front dew claws should be present, and feet are small, oval, and moderately tight-knit. Being low on legs is a fault. It is also desirable that the upper arm is as long as the shoulder. The feet should not be cat feet or hare feet. In this image, the correct foot is shown in the middle. Occasionally, short and steep upper arms are seen in the breed, which can affect the movement negatively and is not to the breed standard. The picture on the left shows a correctly oblique upper arm and shoulder, and the picture on the right shows a rather steep upper arm, which is not correct. Shifting to the hindquarters, the legs should be parallel and well muscled, the thigh fairly broad, the stifle well angulated, and the hock joint well angulated. Rear dew claws are accepted, but they are not required. The dog on the left exhibits very poor angulation in the rear, which is undesirable. The dog on the right illustrates correct and desirable rear angulation. The gait of the Danish-Swedish Farmdog is parallel and free. This picture shows correct movement of moderate reach and drive. Due to the shape of the DSF's rib cage and width, the front legs move on a wider track than the rear legs. They must, however, never be placed so broadly that the movement becomes paddling. Overall type and structure are more important than movement. Smooth, floaty movement usually means the dog is too long in the body. The movement should be brisk, moderate, and parallel. If the croup is too sloping, or if the rear lacks angulation, the rear leg movement will be stilted. If the shoulder is too steep or the upper arm too short, the front movements become too pendulum-like and short and not efficient. The fancy likes to see a happy tail. Most often the dog wags its tail when it is moving or getting attention. This is a champion female class from Sweden showing excellent type, correct movement, and attitude. The coat is short, hard, and smooth. Color, white dominating. Patches of different colors, sizes, and combinations are permissible, including black, brown, agouti, yellow, and all shades of tan to red. Patches also on the head, with or without tan markings, and flecking is accepted. Fault is a head that's entirely white. The coat must not be thin and transparent, nor must it be too long, wavy, coarse, or wire-haired. It must be hard on the body. The coat must be able to keep straw and dust away from the skin when the dog is rat hunting in the barn or woodshed. Additionally, the coat must be able to keep tall grass and humidity away from the skin when the dog is in the field to help herd cattle in for milking. The coat must therefore be close. The white color must dominate. If there is so much pigmented color that the dog would not be described as white, this is not correct type. There should always be white between the body and head or between the body and tail. The following pictures of Danish-Swedish farm dogs show examples of some of the most common color varieties. Dogs are all of the correct overall type. The dog in the last picture is also the correct type, however, it has too much color and is not predominantly white. Flecking is allowed as shown in the picture of the dog on the left, sometimes referred to as ticking. The dog on the right is not predominantly white and has too much color for the breed. This is a review of the faults that are listed in the standard. An elegant general appearance, prick ears, a neck that is too long, a steep croup, lack of depth of the chest, a flat or short rib cage, narrow in front, a tail curled or carried flat on the back, low on the leg, and an entirely white head. A farm dog should never be aggressive or overly shy. Temperament is crucial, and even slight aggression must never be interpreted as guarding behavior. Farm dogs must be friendly and curious. Judging the breed. The breed is judged on the table. The oral exam should be a front check, just incisors and canines. When judging the dogs, it should be kept in mind that their countries of origin still consider their primary function to be catching rats and mice. This means athletic and agile dogs of substantial body without being light, sporty, or elegant, and on the other end of the scale, without being so stout or low on leg that it prevents their agility. Scissors bite is preferred. Since the farm dog is a rat dog, it is important that both jaws and teeth be well formed. Weak and narrow muzzles with narrow jaws and small teeth must be judged as a fault. Level bite is accepted, but undershot bite must be judged as a serious fault. The Danish-Swedish farm dog should be shown natural with no trimming of the whiskers, as these aid the dog's ability to hunt vermin. When examining the farm dog, it should give the overall impression of a moderately rectangular, compact, small dog. It must not appear elegant. The top line must be slightly arched over the loin and rounded in the croup. No other pinscher breed has this top line. It is particular to the Danish-Swedish farm dog. The top line must not be too straight or flat, in other words, not terrier-like. The DSF correct movement is moderate. If too well angulated or long backed, the gait is too floating. It is not supposed to have a big open side gait. On the other end of the scale, the gait should not be too restricted. This is a working dog. If the body is too short, the dog moves with legs that lift too high or that have a tendency to move on two tracks. If the body is too long, the gait becomes too long and floating. The ideal is in between. The head and the expression of the farm dog is significant to the breed. The head is triangular with ears folded above the head. The correct expression is of a forward-directed look. Dogs with slanted eyes or eyes placed low on the cheeks give the wrong expression. The pigmented markings of this breed can be deceptive to the eye concerning angulation and top lines. A well or poorly placed large spot can quite drastically change the perception of the structure. Considering both sides of the dog can sometimes help in judging. We do not assume that this breed was developed from other specific breeds, but rather has its origin in some old pincher type of dog, probably from before the Viking era. Today we do see signs of other breeds having been mixed in, for example, fox terrier and a hound variety, but those were mixed in long after the origin of the breed. Dogs of similar type and purpose can be found worldwide. Several other breeds can appear very much like this breed, in particular, individuals that are borderline acceptable to their breed standard. A less than perfect Danish-Swedish Farmdog can appear almost the same as a less than perfect dog of another breed, for example, a smooth-coated fox terrier, Jack Russell Terrier, Parson Russell Terrier, or a Terrier Brasileiro. Just a summary of breed type. These are lively, animated, happy dogs. They are slightly longer than tall, not spannable like a Parson Terrier. Instead, the DSF should have a broad chest and spring of ribs. The underline is important in the breed, not too tucked up in the abdomen and the chest extending down to the elbow. A slightly arched, short, broad loin and a slightly rounded croup, not a flat croup like a terrier. Head should be relatively small and triangular, not houndy like a beagle. Ears should fold at the top of the skull, which also distinguishes the head from the hound type. Short coupled, short loin, and moderate side gait. These breed-typical sketches illustrate the differences between the DSF, shown on the bottom row, and similar breeds recognized by the AKC on the top row. The Danish-Swedish Farmdog is an extremely healthy breed. It has no breed-specific health disorders. It also has a diverse gene pool with a relatively large founding population. The following is a collection of very breed-typical dogs. The presenter will show these images again so that participants can get an extended look at them and discuss the dogs following this presentation.